Welcome to the StockManor.com studios. I'm your StockManor, Brian Johnson. Another day in the markets, another move up by the bulls. Okay, so we had this was very curious. The Dow was lagging, but not really all that hard to understand why. Dow being a big, usually the lagger anyway, it just takes a while to move those big indices like that. But the Dow was only up a 0.5%, while the Nasdaq was up 1%. So big difference there in percentage moves. S&P, same thing, 0.91%. So close to 1%. You can see it just taking the Dow a little longer to catch up to everything else. That is usually the case. Good to see strength. If you're bullish on the markets right now, you like to see strength in the Nasdaq. That's one of the reasons I like to play the Nasdaq long. It's usually the stronger of the movers. Hadn't been for a while there, but looks like it might be back in action. So Dow on a 60-minute, you can see once we broke this area here, just a fantastic place to get long yesterday. Another good opportunity right above here, about the 10,300 mark. Now it was just a slow grind all day up. So very difficult to make a lot of profits, obviously, if you got in above 10,300, but still opportunities to make profits here. 20 points, not too bad, and puts us above this area here. So we will begin to look at the next areas of overhead resistance. Got to be the 200, got to be 10,400, got to be about 10,480-ish or so, right up here near these highs. I'll probably move this down a little bit to kind of show you exactly where that's at. But those are your next levels to watch on this big move up. Here you'll see the break of that blue line. That was yesterday. Same place we talked about right here. Good place to get long, right up into the moving averages. And now today we've got above the moving averages. So I'm going to give the bears a chance to maybe come back and revisit those tomorrow or break back below them. Will we see a retest of this blue line? It's anybody's guess. And for you Ellioticians out there, I know there's 100 different counts we can go off of. One's bullish. Ultimately, one's always bullish and one's always bearish. Right now, I'm just going to stick with my TA and tell you that we're going to wait for breaks of these more major levels. You hear me say that all the time, but guess what? It works. So I'm going to stick with that for the time being. But we will see if we don't get some sort of a little pullback here. I don't know if it'll come back quite this far, but a pullback nonetheless, and be watching that very closely. Coming into tomorrow's trading as we enter the last day of the week. So NDX on a 60-minute as well, coming up into the 60 or the 200 period moving average on the 60-minute chart. We saw the same thing. This is exactly where the SPX closed to. When we get there, you'll see that. Just a perfect touch of the 200 period moving average here. So Dow's not there quite yet. Nasdaq's not there quite yet, but no reason to think we couldn't reach there tomorrow. We'll see what numbers are like. I don't even know if it's going to make a difference. Market will just do what it does. But you can see here, this looks like it wants to maybe push up a little bit higher. And if it does get above this area, guys, I would look for this, 1860. I think that's very, very plausible to think we could make that level. Then I'd be very surprised if we just blew through it without some kind of a pullback or some sort of a setback here to kind of set up for the next push up if that comes. Nasdaq on a daily getting above our moving averages. Notice yesterday we got almost to them. Today we pushed right through them. Very slow, very gradual move, but we did push above them nonetheless. So very, very strong move by the Nasdaq today. NDX on a weekly also coming back up to test these overhead resistance areas. We'll look more at that obviously very closely tomorrow as it is Friday. So we'll see where they close, but looks like they want to stay right up here near 1834 for the 50 and 1859 is where that's at for the 20. Either one of those places very logical to go, especially that 1860-ish area if we continue the bull climb tomorrow on maybe good numbers or whatever they want to attribute it to. Here we are right at the 200 on the 60-minute chart. Still no indication and no reason to think that we can't go even a little bit higher. Nice big white candle tomorrow that opens us up right around this area. I'm looking at any pushes over 1090. I like the 1095 and 1100 areas for your next areas of overhead resistance. That would definitely be what I would be watching coming into tomorrow's trading. Any pullback, watch the 1080-ish mark. That's going to be a big area for the bulls to hold now that they've gotten above these moving averages. No doubt they're going to want to hold this area. So once again, a pullback. We got to look at any move to the downside as just a pullback and now a bull move. And no reason to think we can't push up a little bit higher tomorrow, get into this 1100 area coming into the weekend, and then we'll see what happens over the weekend. But Like I said, a little pullback would not be unexpected at this point, especially with the kind of the afternoon price action I saw going on. Wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. But good news tomorrow will change all of that. Coming back into these upper areas here for the week, why not close right up there? Where's that at? 1100. 1100. So maybe another slow grind tomorrow that takes us up into the 1100 area on the weekly chart. VIX on a daily also falling, confirming what we're seeing here. Looks like if you want to look at it from a TA perspective, below all this stuff, looks like it wants to come right back down into this area, and that will mean more upside for the markets over the next few days. Same thing on a weekly. We are getting below these areas now. Doesn't take long to get back above them. You'll see by the big white candles, but these red candles just tend to come in groups, and they bleed and bleed and bleed their way out. So still looking at this 20-ish area for a stopping point maybe on the VIX, which should mean more higher prices in the markets. Here's Apple. Apple making a very nice run, as you can see, with the big gap up yesterday, and now lots of consolidation. But here in the last, after about the noon hour hit, started to kind of pick up a little bit of pace and accelerated right into the close. As you can see, it moved from 250 right into the 252 area. Going to struggle with this 200, but if we get a little gap up, guess what? That 254 is very, very plausible in this little move here. Watching the 253.94, which is the 254, as I said, because of the 50-day moving average. Apple, I think, wants to hold itself up as best it can. This whole area we've seen from you long-term investor type people, you've been very, like I said, frustrated. It's been months and months and months since we've seen a move, but Apple's just been consolidating, wanting to go either, I don't know which direction. I think Apple, wants to push itself higher. It wants to get higher. We had the news of the new products, whatever else that Apple's got coming out. So that news is all over with now. I don't know what it's going to rely on to get higher, but because it's fundamentally strong, as long as the markets push higher, you can be almost guaranteed Apple will push with it. It's very rare not to see it do with that. Coming back into a weekly, too, look how it wants to get back to that 254, now 255 area on the 20-week moving average. Still good moves in Apple. That's a $2-3 move to get back up there. FAS on a 60-minute saw that little kind of a pullback and then a push higher today. Very kind of difficult trading in FAS and FAZ. Not much to play off of today. We did get above the $20 mark, gave you a little bit of opportunities at some profits creeping up into the $20.86 mark. I don't see why we couldn't reach that maybe tomorrow, potentially beyond, depending on what we see for market news. Maybe we just consolidate sideways into Friday. Anybody's guess of what we're going to get out of the financials in this particular move. FAZ then bleeding out. You can see it pulling up, hitting the nice, look at this, very nice, almost retest of this 200 period moving average here before moving back down. So still, this $15 area is a big area in the FAZ. Love watching that. Now we're right back into 1450. We did not get below it, obviously, by the close. So I don't know if I would have taken that kind of a trade that late in the day anyway. But any breaks below here, watch this 1420-ish area. And then anything below that, I really don't see why we couldn't reach the 1375. So if this thing continues to bleed tomorrow, watch that 1375 area. From a daily, this is the same type of thing we're talking about here with the 1425 below that to about 1375. It just makes sense. I think that's a very, very logical place for this to go if it'll continue on its way down. At this point, no reason to think it won't. Maybe we get a consolidation tomorrow and then next week kind of pick things up again. But for the time being, those are your areas to be watching. FAS, FAZ. That'll do it for today's videos, guys. Okay, the Dow did not make the 200. Neither did the NASDAQ. But now that the SPX is up there, no reason to think that these couldn't reach those areas. That would push the SPX up a little bit and get it back to about that 1100 area as these things are hitting the 200s. Maybe then we find some overhead resistance and get somewhat of a move back down there. But at this point, I got to just remain neutral to bullish now in the short term. I'm still a little bearish in the longer term. But in the short term, at least over the next couple days, well, let's say the next day, because, with the weekend coming up, who knows what will happen. But I got to be watching for this little move here up into the 200 starting tomorrow. See what we get. All right, guys, be back with you again tomorrow night with the weekly wrap-up.